Welcome to Whistleblowers in partnership with Wix Trade Pro. Coming up.
There was also a lady standing there with a horse. So on I got, no saddle, bareback. And about 5 or 6 minutes into this journey, I realised what a stupid decision I'd made.
She's my biggest fan, my mum. She literally said to me, your passion to influence Redmen comments with booze and rat chants wasn't right in my opinion. You're better than that. But that's just my opinion.
Don't be fooled. Absolutely hard as nails. Hard as nails.
After West Ham.
Do not be fooled. Eddie Howe, hard as nails.
Welcome to Whistleblowers, the podcast. I'm Gordon Smart, the B-Tech Dan Walker, and as tradition dictates, the one and only Mark Clattenburg is with us today. All right, Mark?
Hello, hello.
He's fresh off the train from Liverpool after spending a week there doing Gladiators Live.
Contenders ready.
Contenders ready. And a man we've learned recently who likes to ride horseback through Red Square in Moscow, the very brave and sometimes intoxicated football reporter, Ian Ladyman. Ian, what were you doing on the back of a horse in Russia?
Riding it. What do you think I was doing on it? I was riding it.
Well, how did you find yourself on the back of a horse in Russia?
I walked out of a nightclub at 4 o'clock in the morning. The hungry duck. No longer standing. Walked out of a nightclub at 4 o'clock in the morning. There was a taxi queue and it was quite long. And there was also a lady standing there with a horse. So I asked her if it was her horse, and she said it was. And I said, well, can you take me to my hotel? She said, yes. She said, which one is it? I said, it's the Moscow Marriott. She said, it's quite a long way. I said, that's okay. So on I got, no saddle, bareback. Off we went. And about 5 or 6 minutes into this journey, I realised what a stupid decision I'd made. It was indeed a long way to the Moscow Marriott. There was a lot of traffic. I was freezing cold. I was half cut. So I asked her if it was okay by her, she could turn around and take me back to the queue. So she took me back to the queue to find my mates. So by that point, I got to the front of it. I got off the horse, got with my mates, got in the taxi and went home.
Amazing.
Woke up in the morning stinking like a farmyard. Although whether that was anything to do with the horse or not, I don't know.
That was the nightclub.
I wondered why your nickname at the Daily Mail was Apache. Now we know why.
It's just a shame, isn't it? Well, is it a shame? Maybe it's not a shame that there were no mobile phone cameras. I mean, imagine the footage. Imagine the Instagram footage of that.
I mean, it was probably around the time of the last of the Mohicans. He had his ponytail. He was on the back of a horse bareback.
And you know when, we've always, Gordon, you have more stories than any of us in terms of your time as at the cutting edge of tabloid journalism, and I'm sure we'll hear more of them over the course of the next few months. But normally you put a bit of gravy on these stories, don't we, to make them sound even more fantastical. There's no gravy on that story. That's exactly what happened. Exactly what happened.
You don't need to put topspin on that, do you?
You really don't, no. You really don't.
Well, speaking of nostalgia and moments from the past like ponytails and horseback riding, there was a wee moment of nostalgia this week where I heard Sam Allardyce's name linked with the Wolves job, and if ever that was a story that Ian Ladyman could miss.
Well, especially given that I've known Sam for about 30 years, I probably would.
I was a wee bit disappointed I didn't hear that from you, to be honest. Heard it from
all I'll say about that is that, if let's say, and I don't want to be disrespectful to Sam here because too many people are, in my opinion, but if we're going to talk about direct football coming back into vogue and kind of long passes and throw-ins and set pieces, then I'd expect Sam and Mick McCarthy and Tony Pulis to be putting down their podcast headphones and getting straight back into work pretty soon.
Yeah, it's an incredible story, Wolves, isn't it? I mean, they only gave Vitor Pereira the contract about 3-4 weeks ago, something like that. And he's out the door.
I'll say something brief about new contracts and managers, because Gary O'Neill signed a new contract at Wolves just before he was sacked. The things about contracts and managers, they're often given to managers as much for security for the clubs as much as anything, in case somebody tries to come and take the manager. And people still fall into the trap of saying, oh, he's got 3 years left on his contract, he's been sacked, that means he's going to get 3 years' money. It doesn't work like that. Managers' contracts have termination clauses, termination figures in them these days. I remember Ole Gunnar Solskjaer getting a new contract at Man United in the summer of 2021, and he was sacked 3 or 4 months later. And I remember speaking to somebody about at Manchester United about that, and they said, oh, that contract never meant anything. We just did it to keep the media quiet. He said there was speculation about Ole's future at the time. We wanted people to shut up. We gave him a new contract. Nothing changed. It didn't matter. And I think that's very much the way it is these days.
What do you make of Ten Hag then, Ian? The thought of him being back in the Premier League?
I wouldn't be for it. I think there were too many flaws in what Ten Hag did at Manchester United. I think that he's much to improve on in terms of his language and his communication. That's outward to the public, but also inward to the club as well. We got to the end of Ten Hag's time at Manchester United. Did we ever know how they played or how they were supposed to play? At least with Ruben Amorim, you know what he's trying to do. I was never really sure what Ten Hag was trying to do. I think there are question marks about his recruitment. It's a fact that that United signed a number of players that were quite close or indeed managed by the same people who managed Ten Hag. He liked to sign players that he knew, who played for him or who had played in leagues that he was familiar with. Wasn't convinced about that. And how does he work within a structure? I know, because there's a structure at Wolves, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You won't be picking your own players at Wolves. And I think at Manchester United, he wanted to sign his own players. He got his own way a lot of the time, and we know where that ended up. So I think Eric, much as I quite liked him as a bloke, I think he's got a bit of reputational damage to make good before he comes back to the Premier League.
Just one thing before we move on. I don't know if you saw the match of the day statistics around the players that Wolves have let go in the last 5 years.
No.
They had almost 2 starting 11s of brilliant players that have been at the club and left. So something's going well with recruitment, but going badly with retention.
Well, it depends what your model is. I mean, you could look at Brighton. There'd be a similar team that you could say about Brighton, won't there? After playing at Chelsea, but you know what I mean. And it's the same with Bournemouth. There's a former Bournemouth centre half playing for Real Madrid this week at Anfield. It's okay to let players go, like Brighton do, and Bournemouth do, and Brentford do. But if that's your model, but you've got to replace them like for like.
Yeah. And
obviously Wolves haven't replaced Cunha, they haven't replaced Ait-Nouri and others. So it's no surprise to see them where they are.
So I'm looking forward to that exclusive on the back page of the Daily Mail about Big Sam back at Molineux.
Stop talking such old language. It's not the back page of the Daily Mail anymore. It's the top of Mail Online. Come on.
I'm just trying to fit in with you, and that's all.
I'm so modern.
He's going to break it on TikTok with all these other whistleblowers, heavily viewed viral.
Just when I put that video just after I put that video of me on top on a horse on TikTok.
That would trend. Right, this week we've got the pleasure of being joined by Errol Smith of Redmen TV, presenter, content creator, diehard Liverpool fan. He has a number of the first team players' phone numbers in his contacts book, and he's not going to tell us anything they know because that would remove him from those contacts books. Errol, great to see you. What an amazing performance last night from Liverpool. It was outstanding, right?
Gents, it was absolutely brilliant. It was what Liverpool fans far and wide have been absolutely calling out for a number of weeks. We know October was a massive slump, and we almost felt like we fell off a cliff. But in terms of the performances from Aston Villa going into the last night against Real Madrid, the application's been there, the desire's been there, and we'll probably unpack it a little bit more, but I think Arne Slot's kind of reverted in terms of some of his tactics and going back to not necessarily basics, but I put it down last night as a tried and tested formula. But it was more a case of the performance. We was dying. If Liverpool put in a performance befitting of the club, we know we'll be all right. Whatever that looks like come the 90th minute whistle, that'll take care of itself. And last night, every single box was ticked by pretty much every player to a man.
It's always a good sign when the smallest guy on the pitch scores a great header, I think. And there's so many performances you could pull out. Szoboszlai was outstanding. I thought Conor Bradley played brilliantly. And I can see Ian already rolling his eyes when I say this, but I think Andy Robertson made a massive difference last night. And it just shows you what a bit of experience and leadership can do on a big stage like that.
Completely. Again, I've been calling for it for a number of weeks. Most football fans, we kind of occupy the Twitter space from time to time, and I've been out there and I've been saying, look, for me, the continuity defensively was important for us this season because we know the Trent situation happened. We know that we got new fullbacks in, but everybody's obsessed with seeing the new shiny toys play well. And we've seen for a number of years under predominantly Jurgen Klopp, it was if I've got an integral player to the system, I need to be able to find the amount of time to bed them in before I just throw them in the deep end. And we've got fantastic players. We bought well in the summer. I still think the summer window was a success by and large. but there was a way to phase some of these players in, and Andy Robertson was the key one for me. There has been a decline, and that's natural with age. He's a little bit older, he's an elder statesman in that team now, but one of the things that he's got is that leadership, it's the understanding of the role, and it's that experience, and those as assets to this Liverpool side are invaluable, so we don't look as frail on that left-hand side. You know, Kirkes, for all of his talents, might have the athleticism, he might have the engine, he might have, you know, the extra yard of pace on Andy Robertson now, but he doesn't have that inside knowledge, the back of the hand knowledge of, I know exactly how that position's supposed to be played and how all of my other dependents expect me to play in these roles as well. So getting him, I think it's a 60-minute, 70-minute job, then Kirkes comes on, and then you kind of find the games. If we're cruising in games, then you bring him on a little bit earlier, but we don't need to panic.
Mark and Ian were both at the game last night. And Mark, you know, the referee, I interviewed David James this morning, and he said his last ever game as a professional player, that referee was suspended for, I think, a few games afterwards because he got two massive decisions wrong. But I think he had a good game last night, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he's got the record. Was it in the World Cup? I think he had about 14 yellow cards or something like that. So yeah, listen, you can discuss his performance, and I think Ian's got a different judgment to what I had on the handball, and I think people are obsessed, like, because we always think, Gordon, that we're used to Premier League football, where in Premier League the referees are slightly different to European referees. So when I was refereeing Champions League, I had a referee completely different to how I would referee in the Premier League, and handball's always stricter when it comes to European competitions. We've seen it week in, week out in Champions League, where the hand is slightly away from the body, and if you're blocking either a cross or a shot, it's punished. And I was quite surprised, even though some people are saying it was the right decision for English football, but certainly when you go outside of that, once that arm's away and it was inside the penalty area, I was shocked that he actually overturned his decision and gave the drop ball, which is, and people said, why was it a drop ball when it was a corner? Yeah. Liverpool had a corner. The problem was the whistle had went before the ball went for the corner. So the main decision was, is it a penalty or not? If it was, the hand was outside the penalty, it would have been a free kick, which is bizarre, but even because he wouldn't have overturned that free kick. But because it was inside, he's then give the drop ball, which I was surprised at. And I know Ian's got a different view because Ian thinks Ian's thinking that arm was close to the body.
As soon as I saw it on the replay, I thought, oh, it's in the box, so if it's given, it's penalty. But secondly, I thought, I just asked myself the old question, where is he supposed to put his arm?
Yeah.
And in the position that he was in, there was nowhere else to put his arm. That's a very natural way to fall when you're trying to block a shot. You can't ask footballers not to try to block shots just in case the shot strikes an arm that's down by the side. So as far as I was concerned, it was the right decision. And in the end, it didn't matter anyway. I agree with everything that Els just said. I thought it was a fabulous Liverpool performance. After 15 minutes, I actually thought to myself and made a note that that's the best 15 minutes at the start of a game I've seen Liverpool play so far this season. And it continued. Real had a 10-minute spell in the middle of the first half where they looked like they might slightly get a grip of it. Bellingham did Canate with that lovely turn and the goalkeeper saved it at the near post. Apart from that, Liverpool were the better team by a distance. And one of the things I thought, all the things you've just said, absolutely agree with Robertson, Conor Bradley. It's lovely to see Wirtz play well. It's lovely to see a coach like Slot not be too proud to revert to last season's team, apart from Ekitike, to say, no, these are lads I know can do it. I know Wirtz was in, but Villa at the weekend was pretty much last season's team, and he went with it again. And you know what? The way they played, and this is not meant to be disrespectful to Arne Slot at all, it reminded me of last season, but it also reminded me of a classic Jurgen Klopp performance, because there was an energy about it, and there was a vitality about it, and there was a desire and an absolute conviction and belief in what Liverpool were doing, and they could have won the game by 2 or 3 goals. It'll be really interesting to see how Man City go about it on Sunday when Liverpool go to the Etihad. City aren't afraid to go a bit direct to Haaland these days. It'll be interesting to see how that goes and how Liverpool deal with that. Not for any minute trying to pour cold water on what happened against Madrid, because we're brilliant. And I think it will be a platform. But Sunday will be really interesting.
Yeah, no, I take that point, and I think the interesting thing is there's no secret this season that, you know, City have got Donnarumma in goal, and, you know, his game isn't playing it out from the back. So I think if he gets pushed into difficult positions or where he feels uncomfortable in his box with the ball at his feet, I think his first recall will to be go long and try and find those balls up to Haaland, which would make sense. It relieves a little bit of pressure and it allows City to get up the pitch a little bit. I still think what Liverpool were able to do in the previous two games, though, was we boxed smart a little bit, lads. I don't know if these are big boxing fans at all, really, and I just like the way that Liverpool set traps, and we set traps for Real Madrid and we set traps for Aston Villa in such a way that they felt as if they could try and play through us, but all of a sudden Florian Wirtz picking up a free roll last night, he was the one that was right, the lads have set a trap, now it's my turn to go, because all of a sudden they're fixated with what's going over, right, on the right hand side, being pulled over to the side, and straight away they can just snap in. And Florian Wirtz was really key in a lot of his kind of good work, his ground duels, his interceptions. It came because he was able to sense and anticipate where the traps had been set across the front line from Liverpool's perspective. So last season we had City, we had Real Madrid pretty much in the same week. This year, you know, it's a little bit earlier in the season, but again, we've got the same two fixtures in the space of a week. And last season it felt like an absolute massive kind of moment in our season. It was almost season defining that, yeah, Liverpool are going to be serious, they're going to go and try and win this Premier League, and it's going to take some beating in order to kind of wrestle it away from them. It might not necessarily have the same level of significance, but it will give us the same sort of hallmarks, as it will be a season defining week for Liverpool regardless.
It's a really good point, Errol. Actually, I was with a couple of Everton fans on Saturday. We went to the Rugby League International at Bramley Moor, and as we were going in, we were talking about football. And one of my mates said to me, because obviously Liverpool were playing Villa that night, and we were talking about Liverpool and slot, etc. And they were saying, "Blimey, you know, if Liverpool lose tonight," and I said, "Hey, it's not just tonight." I said, if they lose tonight, they've got Real Madrid on Tuesday, and then they've got Man City on Sunday. I said, they might lose 3 more before they win one. You never know. And to be sitting here now on a Wednesday morning, as we are, reflecting on 2 clean sheets and 2 victories, I mean, blimey, Liverpool would have given everything.
Something that really stood out from watching it on TV is how well drilled they were with the formation last night. I mean, it was like watching a military operation. It was incredible to see. Yeah. But one thing I was going to ask you, Errol, right, and you're so familiar with the body language of the players, and there has been a lot of talk about Van Dijk this season. And there were a couple of instances last night where I thought he was doing a bit of histrionics off the ball. A couple of times the ball went back to the keeper and didn't play it out to Van Dijk. He played it down the left and not to the right. And he went bananas about it. And I don't remember him doing that when he was at Celtic. I don't remember him doing it at Southampton. But there just seems to be something that's irritating him this season. Am I reading that wrong, or have you noticed that as a fan?
No, and I did notice it, and it was funny actually, because it wasn't even the goalkeeper, the one that really stood out to me. It was one in the second half where Gravenberch just got the ball and Virgil drifted into the centre circle, and he had a little bit of space, but there wasn't, again, I'm watching from the TV, so there wasn't like a great big angle on or a big sweeping ball to be played. I think he just wanted to keep it ticking over, and Gravenberch decides to punch it through the lines. And even though that was a great ball, and he executed it, Virgil's arms were up and he was fuming, and I could see it, and I was like, Virgil was screaming for the ball there, and it was nice that somebody else decided, well, actually, no, we can up the tempo a little bit here, and we can push it through the lines and play a little bit of footy. And I think at the moment, one of the things that I called for from a defensive standpoint was, and again, you guys will probably say, look, you've watched the game for years, it's the basics, but sometimes you kind of rely on your qualities a little bit too much and think, yeah, I've got more time, or I'm safer than I need to be. Do the basics. Go up for your duels, win your second balls, but be aggressive. I've seen a level of aggression. It was controlled aggression from Virgil van Dijk, which I think he's brilliant at anyway, but he's normally such a calm and cool character that he doesn't really need to play with aggression or a little bit of needle, because he can just waltz across the pitch and he just glides, and he's just got that quality to him. Whereas I think the last couple of games for me, it's been, lads, it's time to roll your sleeves up a little bit. It's time to remind these lads, actually, yeah, we can do all the pretty stuff and we can do all of the swagger type of football when we're defending, but actually, no, we can be hard as nails when we need to be.
I'd like to say something I never thought I'd say, but I'm looking forward to seeing Sunderland against Liverpool for that reason, right? To see the physical battle. And Ian, I think you've had a view, haven't you, on Van Dijk recently? Yeah,
I think a couple of things I know about Van Dijk is that he listens and he hears stuff, and whether whether he reads it himself or hears it himself, he certainly, it becomes known to him, whether people tell him or what, I don't know. I think, I know for a fact people on his behalf have made contact with people in the mainstream media before to ask questions about why certain things have been said and why certain things have been written, etc. It's going back over his time at Liverpool. I think, look, he's a fabulous player. We know that. We don't need to really talk about that. Fundamental to what Liverpool have achieved in the last 5, 6, 7 years. I think he's a bit thin-skinned. I actually do think he's a little bit thin-skinned. He wouldn't admit it. That's probably because he's a bit thin-skinned. And I think he may say it serves him. If it motivates him, then it's okay. If it motivates, if he hears what Wayne Rooney has said, for example, and he has a bit of a pipe back at Wayne Rooney, and then it motivates him to go and play well like he did last night, then it's doing its job, isn't it? But he definitely hears things. And I think that I have a view on the leadership thing and what Rooney said. And I think for me, it goes back to the defeat to Manchester United. We know about what happened in that game and how the result could have been different, et cetera, but we also know what we saw. And there's two things in that game that really stood out to me in terms of Van Dijk. One was when he gets, he does what he does for the first United goal. Okay, he doesn't go with, loses the first challenge, didn't go with his man, and then turns around and blames Konate, which is that's not leadership. That is not leadership, okay? And then in the second half, don't know if you remember this, there's a ball from the left side, cross from the left side. Van Dijk goes to clear it with his knee. It doesn't make a good job of it. It comes off his knee and smashes Kirkes in the face, who's standing right behind him, and ricochets over the bar. Could easily have gone into goal. Van Dijk turns around to Kirkes and bollocks him. And you're like, well, mate, it's just your fault. It's just your fault. And everybody makes mistakes. But when you're the look, we've talked about Jude Bellingham in this context before, haven't we? Bollocking teammates, just gesticulating to teammates, waving your arms at teammates is never a brilliant look. And it's particularly not a good look when you're captain. So I'm sure that Van Dijk leads that team and that squad in many, many ways that we don't see. Okay. I've read about some of it that people have written about. Errol, but you'll know about some of it, okay? I know, and I'm sure he leads that team in many ways that we don't see. But equally, part of leadership is visibility and what you do when the world is watching. And at times, on a minority of occasions this season, I think Van Dijk has been found a little bit wanting from that point of view.
And Errol, just before we let you go, Mark, you noticed a couple of things right at the end of the programme last night on Amazon that Slot had a word with Rooney, and the Rooney Van Dijk thing was interesting. In relation to what Ian said about having a thin skin, what did you see?
Yeah, there was definitely something. I think what Ian said, they must have watched that podcast and are being heavily informed of it, because Slot wasn't happy with Rooney as well, and reminded him about how difficult it is being a manager and getting results, which was a slight dig at Rooney's management
I don't mind
skills.
I don't mind it.
No.
But Errol, what did you think about Rooney? What Rooney said and the reaction that Van Dijk and Slot gave after the match?
Rooney's a scouser. He's entitled to his opinion, and he sees things in a particular way because he had a winning mentality. Wayne Rooney, he was fantastic for a number of years, and was one of England's best and brightest talents for a long time. I think the way that I tend to look at it is, though, none of these players are exempt from criticism. I think they all at times have played below par, and again, I take your point on the body language issue, and I think then when you look at the other comments in terms of, obviously he's kind of not necessarily down tools, but he's kind of taken the foot off the gas a little bit since he signed his deal. I don't think, because I thought he started the season really well, and I thought he's put in a couple of good, match-winning performances for us as well. I think the Atletico Madrid game in the Champions League springs to mind, if I'm not mistaken. He comes up with the winner in such a way where we had really, we should have been cruising in that game. We should have been massively in the ascendancy, but, again, sloppy and freak goals kind of pegged us back a little bit, but Virgil van Dijk's there to stand up to those tests, and he delivers a big moment for Liverpool. So I think in one, like, for every moment where you look at Virgil and think, actually, as a leader, there are moments where you just want to take it on the chin and show that you will be, you'll be the front man for it. Sometimes there have been moments where he's absolutely done that and done more and went above and beyond for us. And I think one of the big things for me is, and I've looked at it, I've been blessed, Steven Gerrard, Jordan Henderson, Virgil van Dijk, as captains, they have absolutely been unbelievable and phenomenal captains for Liverpool Football Club, but they've all done the role very differently. You know, Gerrard was your archetypical club captain. He was just a man of the people, a man of Liverpool. He was the guy for the club and understood exactly what the significance and trying to make Liverpool relevant at every opportunity. Even if Liverpool on the pitch and the teams that we had weren't the best, he found the way to make us relevant and put us in conversations and tables that we probably didn't always have the right to be at. But he was the spearhead for that. Jordan Henderson was I'm not the most talented, but by God, if anybody works harder than me in this dressing room, if anybody's louder than me on this pitch, something's gone wrong or I'm sick. He was that type of captain, and everything was, blood and thunder with Jordan Henderson. Virgil van Dijk's got his own style and his own manner of doing things, and I think he's the national team captain as well, so he's got the qualities, but he's got his own particular standard and style of doing things, and I think it suits us, because I think it suits Arne Slot, to be honest with you. The passion and the energy from Henderson was perfect for a Klopp system, because we needed that at times. I think with Slot's team being a little bit more, not necessarily relaxed, but a little bit more methodical and a little bit more mature on the pitch, in the way that everything's got a good handle on things. We're not overly emotional in moments, and we take games in by situation and game by game. I think Virgil van Dijk embodies what Slot wants from his captain, probably the best out of what we've got currently on offer. But I think, obviously, going back to the back line in general,
I think the point that Rooney made about Van Dijk signing the new deal and then taking his foot off the gas, I think is wholly wrong, and I think that is wholly unfair. And there's no evidence of that. Anyone's allowed to have a bad run of form,
and everyone's allowed to have a bad run of opinions as well. To be fair,
well, we know
I've had some clangers in fan media, lads. I'll tell you that.
But also, just looking at it from a media point of view, I love the fact that Rooney was brave enough to say it, if that's what he thinks. Van Dijk's got the courage to come back and say, I don't agree. And then the two of them stand on the side of the pitch after a massive game last night and they go at it again. And that's great. That is much better. Yeah. What we don't want is footballers sulking and slagging us off behind our backs.
And also,
I'm all for that.
Yeah, Rooney was critical of Mo Salah. In the last 2 games, he's been back to his best. He's been outstanding, hasn't he? Now, listen, the Redmen TV are absolutely nothing to do with graffiti or murals, right? Adios El Rata. But before we say adios amigo to Errol, what did you boo last night? Be honest with us, Errol.
I was in the studio. I was booing. I'm not gonna lie. My job is I'm fan media, but I'm an entertainer as well. I'm there to entertain the people that are watching us going on. We're doing live streams. So yeah, I mean, I've had some stick off me mum. My mum's been in me WhatsApp this morning, and I read. She's my biggest fan. My mum. I'm sure it's the same for everybody really. But she literally said to me. She commented on Salah. Apparently there was an interchange between Salah where Salah's done a 360 and evaded Trent at some point, and I hadn't picked up on it. And she went, "Yeah, Salah done the right thing. No, he done it quietly, and it was still noticeable. Your passion to influence Redmen comments with boos and rat chants wasn't right in my opinion. You're better than that." But that's just my opinion. So my mum will always check me and put me in my place when I'm wrong. So
can we get your mum on next week?
Oh, absolutely. She's brilliant. She's really good.
Errol, thanks so much. It was great to have you on.
Thank you very much for your time. I hope you have a brilliant day.
Yeah, all the very best to your mum as well. Pundits have pundits these days. Tremendous. Right, now then, boys, before we get back to it, a bit of a shout out to our partners at Wix Trade Pro, because I found myself in the middle of a bit of DIY. I was putting some shelves up and I was short of wall plugs, which is not where you want to be, Ian.
Classic. Let me guess, you jumped straight on the app.
Exactly that, Ian. The rapid delivery thing is fantastic. I had what I needed within 3 hours, saved the day.
What, 3 hours? That's quicker than some VAR decisions.
True that, and that's the beauty of it. Trade Pro members save 10% every time they shop in-store or on the app.
Yeah, it's built to save tradespeople time and money, and it's proper handy if you're caught short midway through the job and you need some extra kit.
So if you're in the trade, download the Wix Trade Pro app today.
That's Wix Trade Pro, helping you get the job done without the last-minute panic. Right, boys, the good, the bad and the barmy, our new favourite segment, as designed by Mr. Mark Clattenburg, who had a great performance last night. I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10 for his refereeing input. 27. Yeah, that means you get your points in fantasy football. There is refereeing controversy that's also been boiling Ian Ladyman's piss. So, this is a Nottingham Forest situation again as well, isn't it, at the City ground? What happened, Mark? And talk us through it.
Well, again, it was the second week in a row that Nottingham Forest fell foul to a decision where this one, the assistant referee has judged that the ball has left the field of play from probably, Ian, 60, 70 yards away? So he's made a
other side of
judgment
the
call.
field.
So he's made a judgment call with the posts in the way, players in the way. And if we're going to put it in simple terms, he's guessed a decision. And what I can never understand is a match official guessing. I haven't got a problem if a match official gets it wrong. It's life. It's part and parcel. But I think what's created the issues, when we made a mistake, for example, we'd give a corner and we thought there was a deflection, and you know the players are clearly telling you it wasn't a corner. You could give a free kick. Yeah. Immediately the ball used to come in. You used to say the old-fashioned whistle, foul, and all the players used to look at you and laugh at you because they knew it was going to happen because it wasn't a corner in the first place, and everybody accepted it. It seems in this modern era now, the way the referees are marked and the way they're assessed now, they can't make the two mistakes. So they can't make an error for the corner and then put it right by giving a free kick that wasn't a free kick inside the penalty area to put it right. And I've always been the guideline that, and I had a similar situation in the European Championships in 2016 where I didn't give a corner kick to a player. I went safe with a goal kick. And Kalina said to me the next day, he said, "Why did you not give a corner?" And I said, because I didn't know if it was. And if I'd give the corner on a guess and the score off the corner, everybody will talk about it. If I give a goal kick, 99.9% of the time, it's not going to lead to a goal. So nobody talks about it. So the easier decision for a match official to give for that corner kick that I'm going back to, where Casemiro scored from the corner, would be just to let the game continue and say, I wasn't sure the ball had gone out because Nottingham Forest had possession of the ball. The argument with Sean Dyche could always go back where you've got to defend the corner. But as we are seeing more and more in the Premier League now, more and more goals are scored from set plays more than ever. So corner kicks are quite valuable now to teams. Yeah. So they're having to defend that. And Sean Dyche made a valid point. Ifab and FIFA are always looking to try and improve the game. They're trying to improve VAR. They're trying to improve a lot of things. And one of the comments they made the last few weeks at their last meeting was they're going to look at introducing VAR checks for second yellow cards, which I think is flawed because I think in football, second yellow cards have a higher threshold than a first yellow card. Then we're going to get back into the subjectivity. Is it a yellow card or not? Referees say no. They're going to be criticised even more. When now, at the moment, they've got a little bit of protection of the old school refereeing where, you know what, it's referee's judgment call. VAR can't get involved. And I think it's going to create more criticism and more discussion than it was before. And Sean Dyche made a point. When it's factual, like the ball over the line, why has VAR not got that authority to quickly check that the ball wasn't out of play? And while it's waiting for a corner, it takes a split second to say, you know what, it's not a corner anymore. I'm going to give it a drop ball. It's simple. Yeah. How long it takes to take a corner? 30 seconds? Why could it not be put right in when it's... And I know a couple of Dutch referee, a top Dutch referee, and Danny McAlealy, and him and his team are masters at it. And I've heard them and I've seen them in action. He'll give a corner and quickly his VAR would say it's not, and they'll just reverse the decision and give the goal kick because the decision is right. It's a goal kick. And maybe the English referees, match officials need to work in a way to find a way that's around IFAB's protocol, but to get the right decision because a match official doesn't want to be criticised, but he's guessed for whatever reason. I don't understand why he would guess from that distance. Gets it wrong.
Well, I'll tell you why. He's guessed, Mark, and this cuts to the heart of it. He's got to guess because he can't know, and that's the point.
You can't guess. You can't guess. You can't be a match official and guess.
No, well, of course you're guessing because he can't know. What you're saying is. He's guessing, but he should guess on the air of safety by giving the goal kick. He's still guessing. He doesn't know.
But if the ball's in or out,
he can't know. So,
but then you're better off playing on. I'm a firm believer.
Just let me finish. I understand what you're saying. What you mean is you can't guess and give a decision that could lead to a goal. So you got to guess and give the safe decision and give the goal kick. But you've already touched on the solution here. they have to guess because they don't know, because they can't know. There's only 3 of them, 2 assistants and 1 referee. They can't know when every ball's gone in or out. VAR does know. Okay, VAR spends so much time interfering in matters that are subjective. Is it a foul? Was it deliberate? Is it a red card? Is it a yellow card? Subjective decisions. When actually that's a waste of time, because VAR doesn't solve those decisions. VAR can categorically tell us whether a football is in or out of the field of play. So to not be allowed
who it came off last, who it
came off last. Correct, Gordon. So for Ifab and the rules of the game to dictate that VAR cannot interfere with things that it could solve in a heartbeat is absolutely nonsensical.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. No, going what I've just said, you're right to say it and to raise that. What I'm saying is when the ball isn't out of play, so like the ball goes towards the goal line, and like, for example, is it a goal or not? The ball goes out for a goal kick, for a corner, it doesn't. They're the ones that you shouldn't guess on. You should just let the game flow. What I mean is you can't say...
You can't let the ball flow when it's gone. Look, I think...
When it goes out, for example, what I'm saying is if it goes out for a corner, if it goes out for a corner and you're not sure, for example, it clearly goes over the line and it goes into row Z and you think, has that got a deflection or not? Most referees, if you watch the top referees, they'll go goal kick and they'll show a replay and he's got a small nick. But the referee will always go on the air of caution. It's goal kick.
Because you're on the same page, are you?
Yeah.
Ian?
I think we all agree, don't we, that it's a nonsense that VAR is forbidden by the rules to get involved in this matter. I don't understand it at all. It should be really quick.
Yeah,
just like I just don't. How many cameras do they have in the stadium for VAR? 12. Why they can't use them? Why they can't use them for that? It's a fundamental matter of geometry or physics or whatever. Is it in? Is it out? VAR can tell us. Let it tell us.
So is it good, bad, or barmy then for you then, Mark?
Well, it's bad. It's a bad decision. It's bad from the assistant referee for guessing, and it's bad that Ifab and FIFA cannot allow a VAR to make a factual decision.
Yeah. Do you think that'll change, Mark?
Well, 100%. It's got to change, because if you want VAR to work, like Ian said, VAR works very well for factual decisions. It's when it becomes subjective and an opinion of the referee and an opinion of pundits, opinion of fans, opinion of everybody. That's when it becomes that VAR is flawed, because some people agree with it and some people don't.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask you a question, Mark, without wishing to use up another 10 minutes of our time, but very quickly? The Liverpool-Aston Villa game at the weekend, there was an instant in the first half where there's all the pushing and shoving in the penalty area waiting for a corner to arrive. And Nana, the Aston Villa midfielder, gets hold of McAllister by the neck and pushes him over, right? The referee, quite rightly, awards the yellow card to Nana, okay? And then there's more pushing and shoving and it carries on. And in that instant, is a referee allowed to give a free kick to Liverpool, even though the ball is not live? When he sees McAllister pushed over by the neck by an opponent, for which he gets a yellow card, is he not allowed to give a free kick?
No, because the ball isn't in play. The ball has to be in play for a decision.
What if he punched him or headbutted him?
Then that would be violent conduct, and then the ball still has to be restarted by the corner kick. I disagree with Nana's yellow card. I honestly think Nana should have been red carded, because you can't grab somebody around the throat and expect. I don't mind people pushing in the chest. That's normal action. That should be punished with the referee's discretion, yellow card, or deciding he wants to give them a public bollocking. But when you grab somebody around the throat, I was quite shocked that the VAR didn't recommend a review and get Nana sent off.
I just wanted an answer to that question.
But you can't, in simple terms, you cannot do anything till the ball is in play. But you can still send somebody off while the ball is out of play. You can still yellow card somebody while the ball is out of play, but you cannot give a free kick or a penalty kick till the ball is actually being kicked.
I think if that rule changed, I think that would eliminate all that stupid pushing and shoving or waiting for it. Well,
and that was probably the first time I've seen this type of incident happen for a while. Yeah, you'll get the odd jostling and you'll get the odd referee go in very early in the game and saying, guys, any more of this? And he's showing his authority in corner kicks. But because of the VAR, Ian, I think it has stopped it while the ball is in play. I just felt this situation with Onana had stepped slightly over the mark, but it hasn't happened much.
Yeah.
This was a
Anyway,
sporadic
I
moment.
just wanted to know.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know.
Right, let's move this on then, because I want to talk a little bit about Gareth Southgate. He's been everywhere this week promoting his new book. It tends to happen at this time of year where all the big books come out just in time for Christmas. Gareth Southgate, his is mainly about mentoring and the sort of managerial experience he's picked up and how he looked after young players and brought them through, a bit of reflection on his own career. But it was interesting, he came into the studio this week, we had a chat with him. And Ian, the point I would make, and I know you've had to interview him a lot and spend time in his company, if I had been a foreign journalist parachuted in for the day to interview him, I would never have guessed that he was a football man. You know, he verged on sounding like a politician for a lot of it. He sounded like a businessman for the rest of it. But it would have been hard to tell that his main thing was leading the England national team. And actually, it didn't strike me as a guy who was looking for a job in football at all, Ian.
And you know what? I can totally understand why he would make that point. And I think that was one of the reasons why not only Gareth Southgate was a very effective England manager. I know lots of people will disagree with me, but I will not budge on this. He was a very fine England manager. But not only was he a good England manager, he was the right England manager for the right time. Because if you think about it, you know, when Gareth took over after the Sam Allardyce debacle, 2016, he had to pick, you know, England had just embarrassed themselves in the Euros in France, losing to Iceland. Hodgson had been sacked. Sam comes in, one game. Sam leaves. We know why that happened. England were at a low ebb. They needed someone.
Knockout match for 10 years, did they?
That's right. They needed exactly in a major tournament. They needed somebody with a bit of depth, a bit of maturity, a bit of dignity, and a bit of confidence and proper leadership skills to lift them. But he also then, you got to remember, he led that team through COVID. Okay, and I'm not overstating it. He led English football through COVID, said all the right things, did the right things. He also had to deal with, just thinking off the top of my head, numerous issues of English players being racially abused abroad, for example. He had to deal with issues around the national anthem. And you might say to me, well, none of that's important. None of that's important. But the thing is, when these things happen, they are important. They are important. I always say about the England football team that it never feels important until the moment that it is. And for example, until Thomas Tuchel comes out and makes a disparaging remark about Jude Bellingham, all of a sudden, as he did last season, all of a sudden it is important. And Gareth, he never missed a trick with that. He never put a foot wrong. And he managed to get some very good football results along the way. And he managed to bring along a group of players and get them in a place where they wanted to come and play for England again. Thomas Tuchel is now building on top of that culture. So Gareth Southgate is much more than a football manager. I think he was a very fine England football manager. But if you're saying to me, he presents to you when you talk to him for the BBC as a bloke with much more to offer in other walks of life, I would absolutely agree. If you wanted somebody to walk into your business, whatever it is, and set standards of culture and behaviour and responsibility and proactive behaviour and team spirit, etc., Gareth Southgate would be a decent candidate.
It was interesting for me. He said that in the time he was England manager, there were 5 prime ministers. So a person in a big leadership role that involved a lot of the population, he was the most steady thing. But Mark, when he was a younger lad, he said that his mentor, Alan Smith at Crystal Palace, said he'd probably been a good estate agent rather than a footballer. Did you referee him as a manager at Middlesbrough?
I would have been in my early days, probably more as a fourth official and stuff. And he was always come across as quiet. He was always like a gentleman. And even when I even saw him after that at St George's Park, for example, when he was England manager and we used to meet up as referees, he would constantly be at St George. He would always engage in conversations, always like a pleasure to be around. But again, because he had this aura around him because he was England manager, you know, but you used to see, and I think he knew him better than I did, but what I could see from him was that he was a deep thinker. Everything was aware, and the way he brought, probably as a fan, the way he brought England together during that crisis of 2016, which was probably the best thing that happened to me, that crisis, because I went on to referee the Euro final because if England had done well, I wouldn't have refereed the Euro final. So that Iceland game was a good moment for myself, but not for the national team. But for him to move the country forward as a team has been incredible. But at the end of the day, England have still won nothing. With this good squad of players. We've had, if we look back, that tournament after COVID, we're inside our own backyard at Wembley and couldn't be in an Italian side to win the Euro. People will say that's
it's not a great Italian side either, is it?
It certainly wasn't a great Italian side. So we've had chances and still never turned that corner under Gareth Southgate.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I really liked him, by the way, Ian.
It's impossible not to like Gareth, I think, and it's interesting that he's not gone on to manage a club, and he's tends to speak in code a little bit about his future intentions. But I'm not convinced that the skills that he had as a national manager would transfer, by the way, back to club management, because club management is so complicated and there's so many layers to it in terms of day-to-day managing of players and egos and agents and buying the right players and dealing with the fans and dealing with the board. Whereas with England, it's much. I'm not making it sound like anybody could do it, because clearly that you can't. England's very structured, and England is about. There's only a certain pool of players, and every squad that's picked, us three. If you pick a squad of 23, us three might disagree on 3 or 4 of them, but broadly we'd still pick the same players. And then it's really about culture, and it's about environment. And it's about bringing players together for a very short time away from home at a tournament. And then it's about picking a team and letting them play. It's different to club management. And it's about representing your country. People may say that's nonsense. The England football manager, to a certain degree, is one of the most important people in this country. You might laugh at that, but I think it's true.
Well,
I think it's
30
true.
million people watched some of those big games, didn't they? That's the most watched thing you'd have in the country.
And because everything that they say and do is, as previous ones have found out to their cost, is scrutinised. I think Gareth was brilliant at that. Yeah. Would he be brilliant as manager as a big club in the Premier League? I'm not sure he would, actually.
So, Ian, would you question his loyalty toward his players was his downfall? Because if you look at, for example, Jude Bellingham, the way Thomas Tuchel's dealing with Bellingham, and Friday will be a great example if Bellingham makes the squad, and the conversations that were coming out from his interview last night on Amazon Prime were that he's feeling a bit negative that he doesn't believe that he's going to be in that squad. Gareth Southgate always stuck by Jude, even with all the shenanigans that were going on and off the field during that Euro Championships. Mm-hmm.
It's a good question. It's a fine line, loyalty. I think there was an accusation for Gareth that he picked players that had done well for him in the past. I actually think Germany 2024 was a tournament too far for Gareth. England were dreadful in that tournament. How they got to that final, we do not know. I think Gareth's race was run after Qatar. Actually, when we look back at it, he stumbled through Germany and almost won the damn thing. But it's just somehow the way it goes. Look. I think that there is a valid criticism of Gareth regards a bit of loyalty. I wasn't convinced about the squad he took to the Euros and some of the players that he played. But Tuchel, much as Tuchel's done what he's done and he's got away with it so far. Okay, it only takes one bad result for all of that to fall down. Okay, Tuchel's done what he's done. He's talking about continuity and rewarding players who've done well. They've beaten Serbia. We've just been. They've beaten Serbia, and they've beaten Latvia, and they've beaten Wales. Yeah, okay, and they've beaten Wales. Okay, so let's and they're just coming up now to 2 dead rubbers against Serbia at home and Albania away. So, look, you could say that the results justify the methods, but. Is Thomas Tuchel really going to have the courage, the strength of his convictions to go to a World Cup without Jude Bellingham? He absolutely is not.
See, my question about Southgate is whether now managers that are introverts are more successful than extroverts. And if you think about when he was playing for England, he probably played beside the 2 most passionate England players in my lifetime, and Stuart Pearce and Tony Adams, right, kicking doors off hinges and all the rest of it. But as a manager, really calm, really composed, a guy who can't imagine really raising his voice. But does that work better with a modern player, do you think? Or does the England team need blood and thunder that gets the fans hyped up as much as the players? What do you reckon, Mark?
I think you need a bit of both.
So the new managers, you know, Eddie Howe's quite similar in that sense, isn't he? He's a little bit more introverted, isn't he?
Yeah, I think the most successful coaches are the ones that have that perfect man management in the dressing room. Then they can find that balance, even with a biggish squad, that they can try and keep everybody happy, because you can't keep everybody happy. You saw that with Thomas Frank at the weekend with Tottenham players when they lose and they don't want to shake hands, and that's the challenges that you have with modern players. I think
Jed Spence,
I would like a coach that has a bit of both in it. I think if I'm in a dressing room, and I had that, even for example, Mike Riley was my boss of refereeing. Mike Riley was quiet, probably the smiling assassin, where Kalina would be a bit more
blood and thunder,
and sometimes I needed that. Certain players need it. Some players react more to the quiet words. So it's interesting that inside the dressing room, Thomas Tuchel's got to find a way, managing, but also he's got to manage the egos, because you can't have a dressing room with some big egos that are affecting the team spirit. You've got to find a team spirit where in a squad of, I think, like players, like a team, you can always sell them. In a national team, you can't. It's not like you can say, I'm selling Bellingham. Yeah. You can't. You've got to make sure that you find the best positions for the best players.
Are we in an era of introverted managers, Ian?
I'll say a couple of things for that. Firstly, Eddie Howe, don't be fooled. Absolutely hard as nail. Hard as nails. Do not be fooled. Eddie Howe, hard as nails. I was about to tell a story there that I shouldn't tell, so I'm not going to tell it. But hard as nails. Don't worry about that. But what I will say is that I think as a player, what you want deep down, whatever the style of your manager, is when you're playing, right, and you're up against it, and you've got to pull something that pull through to win a game or turn a game around. When you look at your touch, like your dugout, the technical area, all you want to see is a bloke that you think or knows what he's doing, and you believe in. That is all you need to see. Whether that bloke is jumping up and down and having a wrestle with the fourth official, or whether he's sitting in the dugout with his arms crossed reading the newspaper, I don't think it matters, because it's what that manager does every day of the week, week in, week out, that we don't see, that what matters. And if you believe in that person, then that's all that matters. I don't think what players respond badly to is transparency, lack of transparency, bullshit, and people who bluff. And there's quite a few of them around, and they don't last. They're the ones who bump from job to job.
Brilliant stuff, boys. Really appreciate it. That's the latest episode complete of Whistleblowers. We're back on Tuesday for the bonus ball. Until then, follow us on socials. Remember, you can email us as well, whistleblowers@dailymail.com. Right, Mark this week is without his whistle once again, so we're going to have to go analogue. Thank you very much for watching Whistleblowers. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Remember, episodes every Thursday and Tuesday, and on a Sunday, you'll get our clip of the week.